Before we start, please note that the opinions, beliefs, and viewpoints expressed on this podcast are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Trampoline Media.
You are listening to Indian Teens Unfiltered,
a trampoline media podcast
where teenagers across India
speak their mind about things that matter to them
and issues close to their heart.
We live in a world where each of us is constantly trying to build our own unique identity. But if we stray even a little from what the society considers normal, there's trouble. So what is it like for teens living in India who identify as queer, as LGBTQ plus individuals? How are they navigating through the trials and tribulations of teenhood, which are further compounded by their gender identity and sexual orientation? We discussed all this and more in a no-holds-barred conversation with 4 queer teens and allies in part 1 of our special series, The Queer and the Curious.
Hi everybody, I'm Jia Chawla. I'm 14 years old. I study in 10th grade and I'm from New Delhi. And I'm part of a campaign called Breaking Barriers, which is the first student-led campaign working towards human rights, mainly focused on making life better for the LGBTQI plus community. I go by she, her.
Hi, I'm MX Riya Sharma. I go by the pronouns they and them, and I am 21 years old. And I happen to be a human rights youth activist, a speaker, and an educator.
Hi, I'm Mai. I'm from Delhi. I am in 11th grade and I go by he, they pronouns.
So I'm Sage. I'm 16 years old and I'm from Ghaziabad. I go by she, they pronouns. I was working with a foundation recently called Beyond the Horizon Foundation, where I worked for the Pride Month and I was the youngest person there, and I won Intern of the Month and I was Pride of the Month as the only queer individual. And I have been an avid supporter of the LGBTQ community until I realized I was a part of it as well.
Just wanted to add here that the names of 2 of our speakers, Sage and Mai, have been changed to protect their identity. And now I want to start talking about the pronouns themselves. Why are pronouns so important?
Pronouns are a part of my identity and who I am, and people using wrong pronouns or misgendering you as a person just feels wrong. Like if you are a cisgender man, if you feel someone addresses you as a woman, you inherently feel that it's wrong for me. And that's why I feel pronouns are a big part of who you are as a person and what community you belong to and how you develop.
When did you start using these pronouns? Ria, you want to take that?
For me, pronouns came quite later in life. I came out in 2016 when I was 16 years old, but it was just recently that I started using the pronouns they and them. People were very curious initially when they saw me using they and them, because I looked masculine to some of them and looked like a feminine girl to some of them. For me, it's important because it gives me a sense of identity. I just feel free in it. That's what I feel. After living 20 years of my life with a pronoun that I didn't quite fit in, and with that kind of suffocation, that kind of pressure to just go along with what the society expected of me, and then finally finding a safe space for me was really liberating. And I just want people to respect that journey of mine.
Yeah, Mai, you go with he and they. Do you want to also explain your pronouns to us and also why you took that up?
So I am I'm a cisgender man. So we are like just given we're assigned certain pronouns at birth. And so the he, him part, I felt that I'm comfortable with them, but then I felt I'm feminine. I'm like, so I'm really effeminate. So I felt like I didn't fit into the typical rowdy man, like the very typical manly man. But then a certain part of me was like, I still do feel like a man, regardless of what everyone else says. So they felt like something in which I could still be a manly man as per everyone, but still express my fluidity.
Got that. And what about you, Sage?
So, as you know, I go by she, they pronouns. I came out this year only and it was on my birthday. I just put up a really small story with a small SpongeBob like meme. It was very funny about me saying I am bisexual, and like I got a ton of support. But still, I have still not disclosed to people that my pronouns are in fact she, they, because I feel there's a lot of stigma that revolves around it and it's more complicated than we feel because we are used to it. We as LGBT individuals, we know what goes on, but cisgender people may not be aware about it. And I just don't want to face those dilemmas. So it's more like not telling people right now about my she, they pronouns. But yeah, I feel accepted when I use them and I feel happy about myself as a person.
I think a lot of us are just, used to she, her, and they are, the society air quotes them as normal pronouns. But that is just not right. And a lot of people also think they, them, using they, them for a person is grammatically incorrect. But, if there's just a random sentence like somebody left their phone on the table, so there is used when you don't know the gender identity of the person, right? I just don't get how society considers it wrong when the person using they them finds it right.
Very nicely explained, Jia. Thank you. So, what kind of reactions have you faced about just being who you are when you're dealing with regular people outside? Ria, Mai, you want to take it?
I'm not very social, so I don't talk to that many people. But the few people who I do come across, they don't get the concept of it because, firstly, it's not portrayed in the media at all. And the parts of it which are portrayed, they're very stereotypical. They'll be like, the gay guy will be shown as a person who will put on makeup.
There's a movie Dostana in which Abhishek Bachchan is shown as straight when he wears a normal suit and a tie, and a gay person is when he, struts and moves his waist and wears a floral t-shirt. That's just, that is typical India media. If you don't have knowledge on a subject, then first educate yourself before actually, sending out the wrong message to the entire country. I just feel that's a bunch of nonsense, honestly.
Being in India, being queer, and being underage. How do these three factors affect your identity and who you are and who you believe yourself to be?
After I came out, I received support as I mentioned earlier, but there was still something that just bugged me. Like people saying things which to them initially did not feel wrong, but to me they did. Like saying, but you don't look like you like girls. Like, what am I supposed to look like then?
On a lighter note, for Sage, I want to say that I'm proud of you that you did not follow the paradigms of being a queer woman. Uh, because honestly, when I was 16 years old, I came out as queer. The first thing I did was to get a stereotypical lesbian haircut, okay, just to fit into the idea of being a lesbian woman. And I wanted to date women, right? So, how will people know that I'm queer? My haircut. But then, of course, for me, it was also like my journey of gender. So it helped me, and I still have short hair. But I feel like at that point of time, I wanted to fit in. And that's how the stereotypes affect us. We feel like even in the community, if we want to be validated, we'll have to follow certain rules and regulations. My journey has been fabulous. I was born in a very privileged family and I had a privileged life, although even with that, I faced online blackmailing and all sorts of things that, teenagers go through because we feel like our families would not accept us. So we go online and try to find our tribe, try to find our acceptance. That was a pretty hard time for me. And I feel like a lot of teenagers, fall victim of such things because of the non acceptance. The generation is getting better. That's what I feel like. I myself, I'm educator for children. I educate teenagers about accepting yourself. I encourage parents to talk to their children about it as early as 5 years old. Because that's when we talk about LGBT, it's also about our identities and how we form it spiritually, and it starts as early as 5. So why do we even hesitate to talk about it? I found acceptance through my friends, through my parents, through whoever I came out to. And I think like when I came out in publicly, when I did like talk shows online and I was there in the media, there it was then that I got a lot of backlash because I was out there, and I was not just vulnerable at that point of time but also responsible because there were so many people watching that video, and I got a lot of backlash. But that was again when I realized that that kind of representation is important. uh, I had the kind of weird representation of dostana when I was 13 years old, 14 years old. But then when I grew up, I saw people like Sushant Divkar or Durga Gavre. And they saved my life in a lot of ways, or Alok Menon, of course, and Ellen DeGeneres. But they came into my life quite later, but they saved my life. So I think I wanted to be that person. And when I did such videos or did talk shows, it made me realize that now it's not just about me being a diva online, but it's also about those young queer people who would get that kind of inspiration to be themselves.
It's so inspiring to hear you say all this, Ria. You're still 21 and there's such a long way to go. All the best. Yeah, Jia, you want to add to this?
The teenage mindset of this generation, like Ria said, this generation is definitely, much, much better than the previous generations. But there is still a lot of ignorance. One of my friends is bisexual. They liked a girl for a while, and then after that, they started liking a boy. So one of my other friends thought that, being gay is a switch. Like when she likes a girl, she's a lesbian. When she likes a guy, she is straight. Teenagers are trying to accept everything, but until and unless they are provided with the right information, they can't actually, succeed in this world of knowledge. Most people don't even know what being bisexual is. But bisexual, basically, what it means, its latest definition is being attracted to one or more genders. Right. So it's not just being attracted to boys and girls. That is a very, you know, wrong notion that even the media puts forward.
What she's saying is so accurate because I have faced the exact same thing. Like, people will be accepting, but they will think that you can switch sexualities. And it's difficult to explain it to them. First person I came out to was my cousin, and I just said it to her. There was nothing like a long explanation. I remember we were in Connaught Place and we were getting fries from McDonald's, and I just told her. It was very straightforward, and she didn't really say anything. She just looked at me like, okay, what do you want anything else? Like, there was no extra reaction to her, like any stigma, and I was never really scared of telling her. My parents, on the other hand, that's a different thing. Like, I have hosted a speaker session about LGBT rights as a bisexual teenager with my real name, and they don't know about it. I'm almost living a double life. But yeah, I do feel I will tell this to them at some point. It's just not my top priority right now because my top priority is accepting myself.
I think that's a good way of going about it, Sage. It's very well thought out. What about you, Mai? What is your experience like?
I'm also kind of living a double life. So when I'm with my friends, I'm way more comfortable, being open about it and being myself. But when I'm with my parents, I kind of have to act a bit more straight. I try my best, but then again, it's don't expect them to completely be accepting of it because, again, the lack of representation made them they're not aware of the things like we are because we grew up with social media, but they didn't. So I don't expect them to completely accept me as of now, but I hope they like considering me as a child, there will be some sort of acceptance.
So I just like to, add a different perspective to it. I have seen so many of my friends come out. All right. So whenever they come out, if they come out to a person, the person will always be like, "Oh, that's so great! I'm so proud of you." I don't 500-word long paragraph about how they're proud of them. etc., etc., which I'm completely fine with. But also, kind of, I want it to be normalized.
Yeah, that's a good point. But we're all talking about support right now. And it's very obvious that, especially if you're underage, if you're a minor, and you are from the LGBTQ community, that support from family is very, very, very important. And what would you like to say to families who are listening to you, to parents who are listening, and maybe who still grappling with it, or wanting to live in disbelief, or trying to understand it better? Like, how does one go about talking to their families?
I'll take up this question first for the fact that I've come out to my parents thrice. First, I came out to my parents as lesbian. Then, after a year, gender fluid. Then, I told them that I want to be called queer rather than just lesbian and gender fluid. What I told them was, see, these are the labels that I go by. And if I feel comfortable, that's how you call me or you refer to me as. Coming out is a process, and even after coming out, things change, but difficulties don't end. That's something that all of us need to understand. It's a process. When you go out, say perhaps seek further education, you'll have to come out there. At workplace, you'll have to come out. Take it into a three-phase thing: before coming out, during coming out, and after coming out. Before that, before coming out to perhaps your parents, because it's the most significant, I feel that you should give them time, as Sage and Mai is. Give them the resources, help them talk to people. A lot of times there are stereotypes like, no, how will you lead your life? Will you even marry? Will you have children? Get them in, contact with other queer people or parents of other queer people. Then while you are coming out, you should be sensitive in your language. A lot of times we just bombard all sorts of information on them. That's what I feel gets too overwhelming. For me, when I came out, I told them also about my partner being there and all of it. And it was just like, okay, Ria, you need to stop. You need to step by step come out about yourself, right? So I think that's important. And even after coming out, we need to be sensitive about the fact that they might not be understanding at the very moment. You have to give them time, give them space. A lot of times, they themselves go into a closet when you get out of the closet, because they feel like they cannot share about your identity to other people.
Me and my parents honestly are not very close, speaking about an emotional bonding, and that is very very common amongst queer people, I would say. Like, I am in a group chat where all of us are queer, and like, I have seen that there are so many issues between us and our parents because we just don't want to talk to them because we are almost scared about what will happen if they find out, how they will react. And that's a real fear that everyone I know who is a part of the LGBT community has. My mom, she grew up conservative, but she's very good about coming around about all these things. Like, I have mentioned the LGBT community to her, but she did say that, yeah, disowning a kid for sexuality is wrong and everyone should accept it. It's natural. Now, it's not much, it's almost the bare minimum, but I do feel happy about that.
Absolutely. Ma, you also were talking about in our last conversation, you were talking about your parents.
Yeah, so again, as I mentioned before, they aren't very open about it. Like, they won't publicly talk about, like, they won't be publicly homophobic, but then again, they won't be publicly talking about supporting the community. I didn't come out to them, but I accidentally, like, they read some chats, so they kind of found out. And when we had a conversation about it, they were like, we get it, you're gonna try and explore, but you're very young right now, so you shouldn't be, worrying about things like your sexuality, rather focused on your studies. It's been a bumpy road since then, and I came out to them right before the lockdown happened. So the first few months of the lockdown were kind of rough due to that, and now it's a thing we don't talk about.
Yeah, which is why the double life that you were talking about. Yeah, Gia.
I'd just like to say Mai is not alone in this. I have seen this happen to one of my friends, and she came out to her parents. And, the first step which she took was just, sensitize them about this community, because a lot of Indian parents, they don't even know this community exists. First step would be telling them that yes, this is a community and this is real. This is not just a phase, because that it's not just a phase is the most important sentence ever. Okay, so first step obviously would be educating them, and only after that can you actually come out. And even after you come out, Indian parents, there's nothing more important to them than education. Just, go through school, go through college, get a job, get a family, and that's just how it is. That's just how they have been taught life is. So you can't technically blame them, but that's what Gen Z is trying to change, right? No age is the wrong age for being part of the community, finding out who you are. I feel like being a teenager is the best age for all of this, because at every point of life there will be something or the other keeping you occupied: school, college, job, family, having a child. So just find out who you are, live your life on your own terms. That's what I'd like to say.
You put it across so beautifully, Jia. I'm sending a big virtual hug your way, okay? And now, this is the end of part 1. Do tune into part 2 of this special series, where we will be talking about love and relationships, school, community, and more. And if you wish to participate in the podcast or would like to stay updated, please follow us on Instagram or Facebook, or visit our website, trampolinemedia.in.
If you are queer or curious, inside or outside the closet, or even on the fence, and are looking for more information or resources or support on this topic, do head to our Linktree on Instagram. Indian Teens Unfiltered podcast has been created by Neha Jain and Ann Doshi from Trampoline Media. This episode was hosted by Neha Jain and the audio was edited by Ahan Shah from Music Boutique. This episode would not have been possible without the support of Vedika Saxena, Shamir Tandon, and Sunil Doshi. A big thank you to all of them.